The station floated in the empty dark like a forgotten toy. Perimeter Station Echo 7 sat on the edge of known space, built on a dead moon that circled a gas giant. The moon had no name. The gas giant had a number. Nobody cared about either one. Inside the station, Dr. Sarah Okonkwo studied tiny life forms under her microscope. She had come here to find ancient bacteria in the rocks. It was boring work. Important maybe, but boring. The station was small. 20 people worked here. Most were scientists like her. The Galactic Council had built this station 15 years ago. The Council was a group of alien races that worked together. They ruled most of the galaxy. Earth had joined the Council 40 years ago, when humans first met aliens. It had been a big moment for humanity. For the aliens, it was just another Tuesday. The aliens thought humans were weak. Compared to other species, humans seemed fragile. The Thexians had 4 arms and could lift a car. The Vorlax had armor like tanks built into their skin. The Zentari could see in the dark and had claws that cut through metal. Humans had none of these things. Soft skin, 2 arms, weak eyes, short lives. So the Council gave humans the jobs nobody wanted. Guard duty at boring stations, research posts in empty space. They thought it was charity. A way to help the weak new species feel useful. Sergeant Marcus Chen commanded the security team at Echo 7. He had 12 Marines under his command. They were all human. The Council thought 12 guards was enough for a research station. After all, nothing ever happened out here. It was too far from everything. Chen was in his office when the alert came. The computer screen lit up red. Long-range sensors had detected something, ships, big ones, moving fast. Coming toward the station, he checked the data. His face went hard. 3 warships. Krithax Dominion. He knew that name. Everyone in the military knew that name. The Krithax were insect-like aliens, 8 feet tall. Armored bodies. Sharp claws, strong, fast, mean. They had been conquering planets for 3 months. 7 star systems had fallen. Millions dead. The Council had tried talking. The Krithax only wanted to fight. Chen stood up. He walked fast to the command center. Dr. Okonkwo was already there. She looked at the screen. Her face showed worry. How long? She asked. 48 hours, Chen said. Maybe less. Okonkwo touched her communication device. She called the Council. She explained the situation. The voice on the other end sounded bored. A Thexian administrator. He had 4 arms and thought humans worried too much. We cannot send ships in time, the Thexian said. Evacuate if you wish. But it is only a research station. Not worth military resources. What about our people? Okonkwo asked. You have humans guarding the station, yes? They can hold until you evacuate. Just guards. The Krithax will not waste time on an empty base. The call ended. Okonkwo looked at Chen. They both understood. The Council did not care. To them, Echo 7 was nothing. The people here were nothing. Okonkwo made her choice. She ordered evacuation. All scientists would leave on the transport ships. They would take the research data, everything they had worked for. But someone had to stay. Someone had to buy time for the evacuation. Someone had to make sure the transport ships got away safely. Chen gathered his Marines, all 12 of them. They met in the briefing room. Young faces, old faces. Some had fought in Earth Wars. Some had only trained. All were volunteers. Listen up, Chen said. Krithax are coming. 3 warships. The Council will not help. The scientists are evacuating. We need to hold this station for 48 hours. That gives them time to escape. Nobody spoke for a moment. They all knew what this meant. 48 hours against Krithax warships. Against hundreds of warriors. Maybe thousands. 12 humans against an army. Private Jessica Torres raised her hand. She was young, 23. This was her first posting. She said, "Are we expected to win, sir?" Chen smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who knew the truth. He said, "We are expected to die, but we are not going to die easy. We are going to make them pay for every meter, every room, every second. We are going to show these bugs what humans do when you threaten our people." Corporal James Mitchell stood up. He was older, 35. He had fought in the Mars Rebellion. He had scars on his face. He said, "I volunteer to stay." One by one, they all stood. All 12. All volunteers. They knew the odds. They did not care. This was what they trained for. This was what humans did. They protected their own. Chen felt proud. He felt sad. He felt angry at the council for abandoning them. But mostly he felt ready. All right, he said. We have 48 hours to prepare. We have mining explosives, industrial tools, fabricators. We are going to turn this station into a fortress. We are going to turn every hallway into a death trap. And when they come, we are going to teach them something. What are we going to teach them, sir? Torres asked. Chen looked at each of his Marines. His voice was hard as steel. He said, We are going to teach them why you do not mess with humans. The next 2 days were busy. The scientists packed their research. The transport ships left one by one. Dr. Okonkwo left last. She looked at Chen before she boarded. She said nothing. What could she say? Thank you for dying. Good luck surviving. There were no good words. Chen just nodded. She nodded back. Then she was gone. The Marines worked without stopping. They used mining explosives to create traps. They welded metal plates over windows. They built barriers in hallways. They moved ammunition to key positions. They set up overlapping fields of fire. Every door became a choke point. Every room became a kill zone. Private Torres worked on the fabricator. She programmed it to make more ammunition. Bullets, lots of bullets. They would need every one. Corporal Mitchell rigged the fusion reactor. If things went very bad, they could overload it. Turn the whole station into a bomb. Take the enemy with them. It was a last resort. But humans always had a last resort. Chen studied the station layout. He marked defensive positions. He planned fallback routes. He memorized every vent, every corner, every door. Knowledge was a weapon. He would use every weapon he had. On the second day, the Krathax fleet arrived. 3 ships appeared on the sensors. Dark shapes against the stars. They moved into orbit around the moon. They were not hurrying. They thought this would be easy. A message came through. A Krathax voice. It sounded like grinding metal. It said, Human station. You will surrender. We will give you quick death. This is mercy. Refuse and you will suffer. Chen opened a channel. All his Marines were listening. The Krathax fleet was listening. He spoke clearly. He spoke calmly. He said, This is Sergeant Marcus Chen of the Human Defense Force. This station is under our protection. You want it? Come and take it. Silence on the other end. Then the Krathax voice spoke again. It sounded amused. It said, Humans. So weak, so foolish. We will come. You will die. This will take 1 hour. Perhaps less. The channel closed. Chen looked at his Marines. They looked back. They were scared. He could see it. But they were ready. Fear was natural. Courage was not the absence of fear. Courage was doing the job anyway. Positions, Chen said. Remember your training. Controlled fire. Conserve ammunition. Watch your sectors. And whatever happens, we hold the line. They moved to their positions. The station was quiet. The calm before the storm. Chen checked his rifle. He said a silent prayer. Not to God. To his Marines. To the people who trained him. To every human soldier who came before. He was not alone. He carried their strength. On the screen, he watched the Krathax ships. He watched dropships detach. Small craft. Moving toward the station. Full of warriors ready to kill, Chen smiled. They thought this would be easy. They thought humans were weak. They had no idea what was waiting for them. They had no idea what humans became when protecting their own. The Krathax were about to learn. War Master Zekthar stood on the bridge of his command ship. He was tall even for a Krathax. 9 feet of armored exoskeleton, 4 arms, eyes like black glass, mandibles that could crush steel. He had conquered 14 worlds. He had killed thousands. This station would be easy. His intelligence officer brought him data. Scans of the station, minimal defenses, no military vessels, old weapons, out-of-date technology. The officer clicked his mandibles. It was how Krathax showed amusement, species. Zekthar asked. Human, the officer said. 12 guards detected. No others. Zekthar pulled up human data on his screen. Soft skin, no natural weapons, slow healing, short lifespans, weak bite force, poor night vision. The list of weaknesses went on and on. How did such a species survive? Why did the council accept them? He checked military records. Humans had been in a few skirmishes. Minor conflicts. Nothing impressive. The council said humans had potential. Zekthar thought the council was being charitable. Humans were prey pretending to be predators. How many warriors do we send? The intelligence officer asked. Zekthar thought for a moment. Normal procedure was 1,000 warriors for a station this size. But this was not a normal situation. These were humans. Weak, soft humans. Only 12 of them. This was an opportunity. Send one ship, Zekthar said. 200 warriors. New recruits. They need practice. This will be good training. The intelligence officer clicked his mandibles again. Training exercise, yes, that was all this station was worth. A chance for young warriors to test their claws on weak prey. Zekthar sent the orders. One assault ship moved forward. The other two stayed in orbit. They would watch. Perhaps place bets on how quickly the humans died. It would be entertaining. On the station, Chen watched the screen. He saw one ship separate from the fleet. His jaw tightened. They were sending one ship, just one. That meant they did not take the humans seriously. They thought this would be easy. Good. Let them think that. Underestimating your enemy was the first mistake in war. Chen had learned that in training. He had learned it in combat. He had learned it from 10,000 years of human military history. The humans did not invent war, but they had perfected it. Every human culture had fought. Every generation had soldiers. Earth had never known global peace. Never. Not in recorded history. Humans fought over land, resources, religion, pride, survival. They fought with sticks and stones, then swords and spears, then guns and bombs, then missiles and drones. Other species in the galaxy had wars. A few wars, spread over thousands of years. Humans had thousands of wars, spread over recorded history. They were not the strongest species. They were not the fastest, but they were the best at organized violence. It was humanity's dark gift. Chen opened the team channel. He said, "Single ship inbound. They are underestimating us. That is their mistake. Remember the plan. Let them land. Let them think they are winning. Then we hit them hard." Affirmatives came back. Calm voices. Professional voices. These were not civilians. These were Marines. They had trained for this. They were ready. The Krythax assault ship approached. It was ugly, functional, built for one purpose: to deliver warriors to battle. It landed outside the station. Metal doors opened. Warriors poured out. Chen watched on the external cameras. 200 warriors. Each one was massive, 8 feet tall. Black armor, sharp claws. They carried weapons, plasma rifles, energy blades. They moved in loose formation. Not tight, not careful, confident. They thought this was training. The warriors approached the station entrance. The doors were open. Inviting, they walked in. No resistance. They spread out. Still loose. Still confident. They were inside the outer corridor. 50 warriors. Then 100. Then all 200. Chen waited. Patience was a weapon. Timing was everything. He watched them advance. Closer, closer. They were in the kill zone now. "Fire," Chen said. His voice was calm. The corridor exploded with gunfire. 12 Marines. Concealed positions. Overlapping fields of fire. Every bullet counted. Every shot was aimed. This was not spray and pray. This was controlled violence. The Krythax warriors fell. The front ranks went down immediately. Shots to weak points in their armor. Joints, eyes, throats. Humans studied their enemies. They knew where to aim. They had prepared. The Krythax tried to return fire, but they were caught in the open. No cover, no concealment. They had walked into a trap. Warriors fell in waves. 20 down, 30, 40. The corridor was chaos, smoke, noise, death. On the command ship, Zekthar watched in disbelief. His warriors were dying. The humans were killing them. How? These were supposed to be weak creatures, prey, not this. Not coordinated fire, not tactical ambush, not soldiers. He opened a channel to the assault team. He heard screaming. Plasma fire, explosions, a warrior shouted into the comm. "War Master! They are everywhere. We cannot see them. They fight like..." The channel went dead. Zekthar felt something he had not felt in years. Doubt. He checked the casualty count. 40 warriors dead in the first 5 minutes. That was impossible. 12 humans could not kill 40 Krythax warriors. It went against all logic. But the numbers did not lie. His warriors were dying, and they had barely entered the station. Inside the station, the Marines fell back. They had prepared fallback positions. This was not a last stand. This was mobile defense. Hit hard, retreat, hit again. Make every meter cost blood. Private Torres threw a grenade. It was homemade, built from mining explosives. It detonated among the Krythax warriors. Shrapnel cut through armor. 3 warriors fell. She moved to her next position. Calm, efficient, professional. Corporal Mitchell used a welding torch like a flamethrower. The Krythax armor was strong against bullets, but fire was different. Fire got into joints, into gaps. 1 warrior charged him. Mitchell burned its face. The warrior screamed. Mitchell shot it 3 times. It fell. The Krythax pushed deeper into the station. But every hallway was a nightmare. Every door was a trap. The humans were not fighting fair. They used ambush, explosives, crossfire. They turned the station into a weapon. 1 hour passed. The Krythax had advanced 200 meters. They had lost 60 warriors. They had killed 0 humans. 0. This was not training. This was war. Zekthar sat in his command chair. His mandibles clicked nervously. This was wrong. All wrong. Humans were supposed to be weak. The data said they were weak. But the data was wrong. He accessed human military history. He had ignored it before. Why study prey? But now he needed answers. He opened the files. He started reading. Battle of Thermopylae. 300 soldiers held a pass against thousands. They died. But they made the enemy pay. Siege of Stalingrad. Months of brutal fighting. Every building was a fortress. Every street was a graveyard. Battle of Mogadishu. Small teams of soldiers surrounded by thousands. They fought for hours. They refused to abandon their wounded. The list went on. And on. 10,000 years of warfare, constant, brutal, creative. Humans fought with everything. They adapted. They innovated. They never stopped finding new ways to kill. Other species had claws. Humans made knives. Other species had armor. Humans made guns. Other species had strength. Humans made strategy. They were not the strongest predator. They were the smartest. And the most persistent. Zekthar understood now. He had made a terrible mistake. He had assumed weakness meant helplessness. He had assumed soft skin meant soft spirit. He had been wrong. Completely wrong. These humans were not guards. They were soldiers. Professional soldiers. And they were doing what soldiers do. They were defending their ground. With everything they had. With creativity. With courage. With calculated violence. Another hour passed. The Krythax had advanced another 100 meters. They had lost another 60 warriors. 120 dead, more than half the assault force. They had captured only the outer sections of the station. The humans held the core. Zekthar made a decision. He sent reinforcements. Both other ships. 400 more warriors, 600 total, against 12 humans. It should be enough, it had to be enough. Chen watched new dropships land. More warriors, lots more. He checked his ammunition count. They were using bullets fast. Too fast, but they had no choice. Stop shooting and they died. Keep shooting and maybe they lasted long enough. He checked his team. 11 Marines still active. Private Jackson had taken a plasma bolt to the leg. He was in the medical bay. He would live. Maybe. If they all lived long enough for it to matter. Chen opened the team channel. He said, reinforcements incoming. 600 total now. We are outnumbered 50-1. This is where it gets hard. Corporal Mitchell laughed. It was a dark laugh, tired, he said. It was easy before. Others laughed too. Gallows humor. Soldier humor. They knew they were probably going to die. But they would go down fighting. That was the human way. Chen checked the time. 6 hours since the battle started. 42 hours until the evacuation ships were safe. They had to hold. No matter what. No matter the cost. Fall back to secondary line, Chen ordered. Blow the charges behind us. Make them work for every meter. The Marines retreated in order, covering each other, professional, disciplined. They reached the secondary defensive line. Torres pressed the detonator. Explosions ripped through the corridors behind them. Steel beams fell. Walls collapsed. The path behind them was blocked. The Krythax would have to dig through. 12 hours into the battle, the station was a ruin. Smoke filled the corridors. Blood stained the floors. Krythax blood, black and thick. Some human blood too, red. Bright red. The Krythax had pushed deeper. They controlled the outer ring. The middle sections, But the core was still human territory. Still defended, still deadly. Casualty count: Krithax 280 dead. Humans 3 wounded, 1 seriously. The math did not make sense. It should not be possible. But it was happening. War Master Zekthar stared at the numbers. His intelligence officer stood beside him, silent, ashamed. They had promised an easy victory. 1 hour they had promised training. Instead, this was a meat grinder. How? Zekthar said. Just that one word. How? The intelligence officer had no answer. He had studied the data. Humans were weak. The data said so. But the data was incomplete. The data had missed something important. Humans had no claws. So they made better ones. Knives, swords, guns, missiles, bombs. Humans had no armor. So they built it. Steel, ceramic, Kevlar, energy shields. Humans had no natural weapons. So they turned everything into a weapon. Tools became weapons. Walls became barriers. Doors became choke points. The entire station was a weapon now. And the humans knew how to use it. But it was more than tools. It was how they fought. Krithax fought as individuals. Strong individuals. Each warrior relied on their own strength. Their own armor. Their own claws. Humans fought as a unit. 12 bodies, 1 mind. They covered each other. They communicated constantly. They moved like a machine. When one fired, another reloaded. When one advanced, another provided cover. They were not 12 individuals. They were one weapon with 12 parts. This was the human advantage. Not strength, not speed, teamwork, coordination, unity. Humans were pack hunters. They evolved to work together, to hunt prey larger than themselves, to protect their group at any cost. Zekthar accessed more human history files. He read about military tactics, phalanx formations, shield walls, fire teams, squad tactics. Every culture developed them. Independently, it was in their nature. Humans working together were more than the sum of their parts. He read about human persistence. Humans were endurance hunters. They could not outrun prey, so they chased it. For hours, for days, until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. Humans just kept coming. They did not stop ever. He read about human adaptability. Humans lived everywhere on their planet. Deserts, jungles, mountains, ice, they adapted to anything. They solved problems. They improvised. They overcame. Zekthar closed the files. He understood now. Humans were dangerous, not in spite of their weaknesses. Because of them, they had spent millions of years compensating for weaknesses. They got very, very good at it. Inside the station, Sergeant Chen was tired. Bone tired. He had not slept in 14 hours. None of them had. But they could not stop. Rest meant death. Private Jackson had died. The plasma wound was too severe. He had bled out in the medical bay. That made it official. 1st Marine KIA killed in action. 11 left. Chen felt the weight of it. Jackson had been young, 25. He had a family back on Earth, parents, a sister. They would get a letter, a flag, a medal. Cold comfort, but Chen pushed the grief away. There would be time to mourn later. Maybe, if any of them survived. Right now, the mission mattered. Hold the line, buy time. Protect the evacuation. He checked his rifle. Almost out of ammunition. They were all running low. The fabricator was still making bullets, but not fast enough. They were using ammunition faster than they could make it. Corporal Mitchell appeared beside him. His face was covered in soot. His armor was scorched. He said, "We have maybe 6 hours of ammunition left. If we are lucky. Maybe 4 if they push hard," Chen nodded. 6 hours. The evacuation needed another 30 hours. They were not going to make it. Not with bullets. They would have to improvise. What do we have? Chen asked. Mitchell smiled. It was a tired smile. He said, "Knives, tools, rocks if it comes to it. We are human, sir. We make do." Chen smiled back. Yes, they would make do. Humans always did. The Krithax attacked again. Waves of warriors. They had learned to be cautious. They moved slower now. Checked corners. Used cover. The humans had taught them respect. The hard way, but there were so many of them. 300 Krithax warriors left, against 11 humans. The numbers were overwhelming. The Krithax pushed forward. Meter by meter, room by room, Private Torres ran out of bullets. She dropped her rifle. She picked up a metal pipe. A Krithax warrior charged her. She swung the pipe. It connected with the warrior's head. The warrior stumbled. She hit it again, and again, until it stopped moving. She picked up the warrior's plasma rifle. She did not know how to use it well, but she figured it out. Point, pull trigger, plasma bolt. Simple enough. She kept fighting. Corporal Mitchell used a fire extinguisher as a club, then as a smokescreen. Then he used a Krythax energy blade he had taken from a dead warrior. He was not trained with blades, but humans adapted, he learned. Fast. 18 hours into the battle, the humans had been pushed back to the core facility, the reactor room. This was their last defensive position. Behind them was nothing. Nowhere to retreat. This was it. 8 Marines left, 4 dead. They had killed over 400 Krythax warriors. 400. The ratio was insane, 50-1. But numbers were numbers. The Krythax still had 200 warriors. The humans had 8. Chen gathered his team. They looked at each other, exhausted, wounded, determined. They had done the impossible, but it was not enough. Not yet. Listen, Chen said. We have held for 18 hours. The evacuation needs another 30. We cannot hold that long, not against 200. So we changed the game. What game? Torres asked. Chen pointed at the reactor. He said, we rig it to overload. Remote detonator. Then we send a message to the Krythax. Tell them we will blow the station. Kill everyone. Them and us, Mitchell understood. He said, a bluff? Chen shook his head. He said, no, not a bluff. If they keep attacking, we blow it. We take them with us. But maybe, just maybe, they back off. Give us time. It was a desperate plan, crazy. But they were desperate. And humans did crazy well. They rigged the reactor. Mitchell knew the systems. He set it up. Overload sequence. 10-minute timer. Remote trigger. Press a button. 10 minutes later, big explosion. Very big. Chen opened a channel to the Krythax command ship. He said, War Master, this is Sergeant Chen. We have rigged the station reactor. It will detonate. Fusion explosion. Large enough to take out your entire fleet. Stop your attack, or we all die together. Silence. Then Zekthar's voice, uncertain. He said, you are bluffing. You will not kill yourselves, Chen laughed. It was a dark laugh. He said, War Master, you have been fighting us for 18 hours. You have lost over 400 warriors. Do we seem like the kind of people who bluff? More silence. Zekthar checked human military history again. He found entries about suicide attacks, kamikaze, martyrdom operations, last stance. Humans did not bluff about this. When cornered, they would take the enemy with them. It was documented. Over and over, Zekthar made a calculation. He could win. Probably. But it would cost him the rest of his warriors, and possibly his ships, all for one station. One empty research station. It was not worth it. He gave the order. Cease assault, pull back. Establish perimeter. Wait. The Krythax warriors retreated. Slowly, carefully. They did not trust the humans. They expected a trick. But no trick came. The humans stayed in the reactor room, waiting. Chen watched them go. He felt relief. Brief relief. They had bought time. How much, he did not know. But every hour counted. Every minute, Torres sat down. Her legs gave out. She was shaking. Adrenaline crash. She said, are we really going to blow it? If they attack again? Chen looked at her. He said, yes, if we have to. That is the mission. Protect the evacuation. At any cost, she nodded. She understood. They all understood. They were human Marines. They protected their own, no matter what. On the command ship, Zekthar sat in his chair. He felt something he rarely felt. Respect. These humans had fought with incredible courage. Incredible skill. They had made him pay for every meter. They had turned a training exercise into a nightmare. He accessed the human military files one more time. He found a quote. Ancient human text. Sun Tzu. Art of War. It said, victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. Zekthar understood. The humans had won before the battle started. They had prepared. They had planned. They had used every advantage. He had gone to war expecting easy victory. He had been defeated by his own arrogance. He looked at the casualty list. Over 400 dead. Against 12 humans, no, against 8 now. The math was impossible. But it was real. Zekthar made a note in his records. It said, "Never underestimate humans. They are not weak. They are dangerous. Very dangerous." It was a lesson learned in blood. His warrior's blood. He would not forget it. The standoff lasted 6 hours. 6 long hours. The Krythax held the outer station. The humans held the reactor room. Neither side moved. Both sides waited. In the reactor room, the Marines took turns resting. They could not all sleep. Someone had to watch. Someone had to hold the detonator. But they rotated. Short naps, 20 minutes 30, enough to keep functioning. Chen sat by the door. His eyes were heavy, so heavy. But he stayed awake. He thought about Earth, about his family. His sister. She was on the Human Defense Force flagship. Commander Chen, she was probably worried. He had not sent a message. Could not risk it. The Krythax might intercept. Private Torres cleaned her borrowed plasma rifle. She had figured out how it worked. Krythax weapons were different from human weapons, but the principle was the same. Point at target. Pull trigger. Target dies, simple. Corporal Mitchell checked the reactor. The overload was ready. 1 button press. 10 minutes. Then nothing. Everything gone, station, Krythax, humans, all of it. He hoped it would not come to that. But he was ready if it did. On the command ship, War Master Zekthar received a transmission. From Krythax High Command. They had heard about the battle. They wanted an explanation. 400 warriors lost, against 12 humans. It was embarrassing. It made the Krythax look weak, Zekthar explained. He told them about the tactics, the traps, the teamwork, the desperate courage. High Command did not want to hear it. They said he had failed. They said he should have sent more warriors from the start. They said he had underestimated the enemy. They were right. He had underestimated. Badly. But he was learning. He sent a message to all Krythax forces. It said, "Human forces are more dangerous than intelligence suggests. Do not engage lightly. Use overwhelming force 24 hours into the standoff. 30 hours total since the battle began." The Marines were exhausted, running on willpower alone. But the evacuation ships were getting farther away. Every hour helped. Then the sensors detected something. New ships. Coming fast. Big energy signatures. Military vessels. Chen checked the readings. His heart jumped. Human ships. The cavalry was coming. Admiral Zhang Hui commanded the Human Defense Fleet battle group. 4 destroyers. 2 cruisers. She had burned the engines hard. Pushed beyond safety limits. Arrived 12 hours early. When she heard about Echo 7, she had not waited for council approval. She had just gone. Her brother was on that station. Marcus, her little brother, the Marine who always wanted to protect people. She was not going to let him die alone in the dark. The human fleet entered the system. Admiral Zhang opened a channel to the Krythax command ship. Her voice was cold, professional, deadly. She said, "Krythax vessels, this is Admiral Zhang Hui of the Human Defense Fleet. You are ordered to cease your assault on perimeter station Echo 7 immediately. Withdraw your forces, or be destroyed." Zekthar looked at his screens. Human warships. Real warships. Not research vessels. Not transports. Warships built for combat. He checked their weapon signatures. They were hot. Ready to fire. The humans were not bluffing. He considered his options. His ships were damaged. His warriors were exhausted. Morale was broken. He had 200 warriors left out of 600, and now he faced human warships with angry crews. Pride said fight. Logic said retreat. Zekthar chose logic. He opened a channel. He said, "Human Admiral, we will withdraw. But know this. We came for a station. We found soldiers. Your people fought well. With honor." Admiral Zhang paused. She had not expected that. "Respect from the enemy." She said, "Your warriors fought bravely too. They died because you underestimated us. Do not make that mistake again." The Krythax ships withdrew. Slowly, carefully. The human warships tracked them, weapons locked ready, but no shots were fired. The Krythax jumped to hyperspace. Gone. Chen received the message. The Krythax were gone. They had held. They had won. 8 Marines. Against 600 Krythax warriors. They had held for 30 hours. Done the impossible, he stood up. His legs shook. Adrenaline crash, exhaustion, relief. He opened the team channel. He said, "Stand down. We are secure. The fleet is here." We made it. Silence. Then cheering. Weak cheering. Tired cheering. But cheering. They had survived. Against all odds. They had survived. Torres started crying. Just crying. The stress finally breaking through. Mitchell put a hand on her shoulder. He said nothing. What could he say? They all felt it. The weight, the cost. 4 Marines dead. Jackson, Williams, Kowalski, Guyan, 4 good people. 4 heroes. Human shuttles landed at the station. Medical teams, engineers, fresh troops. They came through the ruined corridors. They saw the destruction. The blood, the bodies. Krathak's bodies everywhere. Hundreds of them. A medical officer reached the reactor room. She saw the 8 Marines, exhausted, wounded, but alive. She said, "How many of you are there?" Chen said, 8 now. 12 when it started. The medical officer looked confused. She said, 8? Against all of this? She gestured at the carnage outside. Chen nodded. He was too tired to explain. Too tired to talk. He just nodded. The medical officer helped them to the shuttle. She kept looking at them. These 8 people had done this. Had held an entire station. Had killed hundreds. She had studied military history. She knew about famous last stands. But knowing about them and seeing the survivors were different things. Admiral Zhang waited in the shuttle bay of her flagship. When the Marines arrived, she stood at attention. Formal, professional. But when Chen stepped off the shuttle, she broke protocol. She hugged him, hard. He hugged back. "You crazy idiot," she said. "You were supposed to evacuate," Chen smiled. Tired smile. He said, "Someone had to hold the line." "You held it," she said. "You held it against an army." "We are Marines," Chen said. "That is what we do." The news spread across the galaxy fast. Video footage from the station cameras. Combat recordings, casualty reports. The Galactic Council saw it. Every member species saw it. 12 human Marines held a station for 30 hours. Against 600 Krythax warriors. Killed over 400. Lost only 4 of their own. The numbers seemed impossible. But the evidence was clear. Bodies, footage, testimony. Other species watched the footage in shock. The humans moved like they were dancing. Coordinated, precise, every movement had purpose. Every shot counted. They used tactics older species had never considered. Ambush, crossfire, improvised weapons. They turned disadvantages into advantages. The Thexian administrator who had dismissed the evacuation request watched the footage. He felt shame. He had called them just humans. He had said they could hold until evacuation. He had been right. But he had not understood what it would cost. What they would endure. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. They needed to address this. The humans had been given charity positions. Treated as weak. That had been a mistake. A terrible mistake. War Master Zekthar was summoned to the council. He stood before them. All the major species. They asked him to explain. He told them everything. The battle. The tactics. The courage. The cost, a council member asked. How did 600 warriors fail against 12 guards? Zekthar clicked his mandibles. He said they were not guards. They were soldiers. Human soldiers. There is a difference. Explain, the council member said. Zekthar said, every species has warriors. Strong individuals who fight. Humans have soldiers. They fight as one. They use tools, strategy, they adapt, and they never stop. We killed 4 of them. We thought we were winning. But we were losing. Every hour we fought, they learned. They adapted. They got better, he paused, then continued. Humans have no claws, so they made better ones. No armor, so they built it. No natural weapons, so they turned everything into a weapon. The station. The doors, the air, everything, they are weak individually. But together they are terrifying. The council was silent. They had never heard a Krythax War Master speak with such respect about an enemy. Especially not humans. The weak humans. The soft humans. A Vorlax council member said, but they are weak. Fragile. Short-lived. Zekthar said, that is what I thought. I was wrong. They are not weak. They are restrained. There is a difference. They have spent thousands of years learning to kill, and hundreds of years learning not to. When you threaten them, they remember how to kill very well. The council adjourned. They had much to discuss. The humans were not what they thought. Not charity cases. Not weak refugees from a primitive world. They were warriors. Dangerous warriors, hidden behind soft skin and kind words. The galaxy was going to have to adjust its view of humanity, starting now. 3 weeks after the battle, the Galactic Council held a formal ceremony. They called it a recognition of valor. Really, it was an apology, an admission that they had been wrong about humanity. The 8 surviving Marines stood on the council floor. Sergeant Chen, Corporal Mitchell, Private Torres, 5 others. They wore their dress uniforms, clean, pressed, professional. Their medals shined, but their eyes were distant. They still saw the battle. They always would. The council gave them the highest honors. The Star of Valor, medals of courage from every member species, awards they would never forget, awards bought with blood and pain and loss. 4 empty chairs sat beside them. For Jackson, Williams, Kowalski, Nguyen, the fallen. Their families were present, holding folded flags, trying not to cry. The council honored the dead too, posthumous awards, small comfort. The council chairman spoke. He was Zentari, tall, dignified, claws folded respectfully. He said, "We gave humanity the stations we thought were unimportant. We believed you needed our charity. We were wrong. You did not need charity. You needed opportunity. And when tested, you showed us what humanity truly means." He paused, looked at the Marines, continued. 12 of you stood against 600. You held for 30 hours. You suffered casualties of only 4. You killed over 400 enemy warriors. These numbers seem impossible, but they are real. You made them real. The council chamber was silent. Every species representative was present. They all watched. They all understood. Humanity was not weak. Not anymore. Maybe they never had been. Ambassador Chen stood next. Marcus's sister. She wore her uniform too. Commander rank. She had prepared a speech, diplomatic words, careful phrases. But when she looked at her brother, at the survivors, at the empty chairs, the speech did not matter. She said, "The council gave us charity postings. You thought we were weak. You saw our soft skin and short lives and thought we needed protection. You were wrong. We do not need protection, but we give it freely to those who cannot protect themselves." She gestured to the Marines. These 8 people held a station not because they had to. They volunteered. They knew the odds. They went anyway. That is what humans do. We protect. We endure. We never surrender. She looked around the chamber, made eye contact with every representative. You asked us to guard your empty stations, your forgotten outposts. You thought it was charity. But now you know. When you give humans something to protect, we will die before we let you down. That is not weakness, that is strength. The representatives shifted, uncomfortable, ashamed. They had underestimated humanity, treated them as lesser, given them scraps, and humanity had turned those scraps into victories. The Thexian administrator stood, forearms folded. He said, "I was the one who denied the evacuation request. I said it was just a research station, not worth military resources. I was wrong. I apologize to the families of the fallen. I apologize to humanity. I will carry this shame forever." Ambassador Chen nodded, accepted the apology. She said, "Learn from this. All of you. Humans may look weak. We are not. We have spent 10,000 years learning warfare. We know every trick, every tactic, every strategy. We do not use them because we are peaceful. But make no mistake. When we must fight, we are very good at it." The council voted. Unanimously, new resolutions. Human defense forces would have expanded roles, strategic postings, real authority, no more charity positions. Humanity would be treated as equals, as warriors, as protectors. Better late than never. The Krythax Dominion sent a delegation, not warriors, diplomats. They requested peace negotiations, The battle at Echo 7 had shaken them. They had thought humans were easy targets. They had learned otherwise. They wanted no more human battles. The peace talks lasted 6 months. In the end, borders were established. Treaties signed. The Krithax expansion stopped. The conquered systems were liberated. Millions saved. All because 12 Marines held a station. Chen was offered a promotion. Lieutenant. Training command position. Safe posting. Comfortable. He could teach new Marines. Pass on his knowledge. He almost accepted. But then he thought about Echo 7. About the researchers. About Dr. Okonkwo who trusted him. About how the council abandoned them. About how important those forgotten places were. Someone had to guard them. He declined the promotion. Requested assignment to another remote station. The council tried to change his mind. Those postings were no longer charity positions. They were important now. Respected, but also dangerous. Lonely. Hard. Chen said, "Someone has to do it. Someone who understands what it means. I will go." 3 of his Marines volunteered to go with him. Mitchell, Torres. Chen tried to talk them out of it. They refused. They were a team. They had survived hell together. They would serve together. Dr. Okonkwo returned to Echo 7. The station was rebuilt, stronger now. Better defenses, more guards. But she wanted Chen's team. She trusted them. They had saved her people. She would not forget. Above the rebuilt station entrance, they placed a new sign. Simple words. Powerful words. It said, "Guarded by humans." Word spread across the galaxy. Those 3 words became known, became respected, became feared. When pirates looked for targets, they avoided stations with that sign. When raiders planned attacks, they chose other targets. When enemies considered assault, they thought twice. Guarded by humans. It meant the place was protected. It meant attacking would be costly. It meant you would face soldiers who never quit, who never surrendered, who would make you pay for every meter. 5 years passed. Echo 7 became a prestigious posting. Young soldiers from many species requested training there. They wanted to learn from Chen, from his team, from the humans who had done the impossible. Chen ran a cross-species training program. He taught tactics, strategy, teamwork. He taught that strength was not about claws or armor. It was about working together, about using your advantages, about never giving up. Alien soldiers learned. They watched humans train, saw how they moved, how they communicated, how they adapted. The humans were not physically superior, but they fought smarter, better. Together, a young Zentari soldier asked Chen one day. She said, "How did you hold the station, against so many, with so few?" Chen thought about it, remembered the fear, the exhaustion, the loss, the determination. He said, "We had something to protect, people we cared about. That makes you strong, stronger than you think possible." "But the odds were impossible," the Zentari said. Chen smiled. He said, "Humans do not believe in impossible. We believe in difficult, in hard, in costly, but not impossible. When we must do something, we find a way, or we die trying, usually both." The training program became famous. Other stations requested it. Human military doctrine spread, not because it was forced, because it worked. Other species adopted human tactics, human teamwork, human persistence. The galaxy changed. Slowly, but it changed. Humans were no longer the weak species, the charity cases. They were protectors, warriors, teachers, equals. A new phrase entered common use across the council. When, facing impossible odds, species would say, "Time to be human about this." It meant do not give up, find a way, adapt, overcome, never surrender. 10 years after the battle, the council built a monument on the rebuilt Echo 7 station in the center of the main corridor. It listed the names of the 4 fallen Marines: Jackson, Williams, Kowalski, Nguyen. Below their names and inscription it said, 12 stood, 8 survived, 4 fell, 600 came, 400 died, none passed. This is humanity. Simple words, true words. The story of Echo 7. The story of what happened when aliens underestimated humans. When they attacked a remote outpost. When they learned it was guarded by humans. Chen visited the monument sometimes, late at night, when the station was quiet. He would read the names, remember the faces, the voices, the sacrifice. He would salute, say a prayer. Promise to never forget. Torres would find him there. She never said anything, just stood beside him, silent, remembering. They had survived when they should have died. That came with weight, with responsibility, with duty. Mitchell would join them, the 3 of them. Survivors. Brothers and sisters in arms. They had shared something no one else could understand. They had faced death together. And won. The galaxy was safer now. Not because of big battles or huge fleets, but because of 12 people who refused to quit. Who stood when they could have run. Who fought when they could have surrendered. Who protected when no one else would. That was the human way. Not the strongest. Not the fastest. Not the toughest. But the most stubborn. The most determined. The most loyal to their own. The Krythax never attacked human positions again. They remembered Echo 7. They told their young warriors about it. A warning. A lesson. Do not underestimate humans. They seem weak. They are not. They are dangerous. Very dangerous. Other species learned too. The hard way or the easy way, but they all learned. Humans were pack animals, social creatures. They protected their pack, and when you threatened their pack, they became something else, something terrifying. They became soldiers. Across the galaxy, on stations and ships and colonies, a question was asked. When danger came, when threats emerged, when protection was needed, the question was simple. Who do we call? The answer was always the same. Get the humans. Because when you needed something protected, you did not hire the strongest warriors. You did not hire the fastest fighters.